Welcome, busy gamers. Today we're again going to be talking about Marvel Snap. Now, I've been playing since its early release, and I've regularly hit Infinite. I've only really taken off during the Days of Future Past season. But now we've got 9 months and 9 seasons under our belt, so I thought it would be a good time to quickly revisit my initial review of the game, and to talk a little bit about where I feel the game is today. Is it still worth your time, so to speak? I won't go into much of an overview here, but if you'd like to hear my initial thoughts on the game, as well as that overview, I will link that original review in the description below. So what's changed with the game? We've now got a deck or cosmetic customization option by deck. Initially, the only thing that was easy to customize by deck was the card back, and now you can change your avatar, your profile picture, and you can have all of that assigned by deck. While for me this is a pretty minor change, and I don't particularly like the titles as game rewards, overall I think it's a positive shift for players, so while I would like to see them do a little bit more, it's a good one. Next, and probably one of the largest two changes, are how you progress through the ranks. Now, they've been adjusting this system slightly for a while now, and as it stands, ranking up only requires 7 cubes per level, with a bonus 3 levels gained anytime you cross a level that multiples of 10. Now, this has been a great change for the semi-casual players for me, who may have had the skill to advance, however, they just hadn't had the time to kind of grind that up to infinite. There are decks that consistently climb, especially if you know how to play them, and if you are only netting 1 or 2 cubes, sometimes it takes a very long time. So I like to see this consolidated, and I think it is a good change. Also, now if you win an 8 cube game, you see an immediate result or reward in the form of an increase in level. Since these wins are pretty rare, it does change it enough to make it much more satisfying when you actually manage to get an 8 cube win. Now it also makes it feel much worse on the other side, and so that makes you think a bit more when someone snaps that further into you. In addition, you're not going to be matching with players more than 30 ranks different than yourself anymore. And once you're infinite, you're only going to be matching versus other infinite players. And from my perspective, this has created a much more open and even playing field that will provide more fun and engaging matches around a player's actual skill level. I will say that queue times have increased because of it, but not so much so that I've ever been concerned. The second of the larger changes is a move towards a more over-the-air balance change and increased balance change frequency. Overall, this one's also been really excellent, and I feel that we've truly seen a much more diverse field in the recent metas. The meta at later ranks has also really improved, and I typically think of the higher ranks, so 70 to 100 and then past infinite, as being kind of that stable meta in where you want that variety. Of course, you want to see it at lower levels, but you tend to see it more at lower levels anyway. Variety is the lifeblood of games like this, especially for more casual players who won't want to see only of X or Y data and deck on the ladder. And while there's still going to be pockets of this, you're going to hit streaks, the meta is shifting often enough right now to regularly feel fresh from my perspective. So while it's limited to specific types of changes, this over-the-air thing is typically allowing you to change power and cost versus their actual effect. So it does give you a better pacing for changing on some of the problem cards, because they can nerf or buff it just a little bit, and then come back and hit it with something more specific if it needs to be. We've also had some token shop updates. Instead of 1 card at a time, you're going to be seeing 3, a variant, a new or featured card, and then an unowned card from any of the series. I think they could go quite a bit further with this. I'd like to see them have, 1 variant at all time, then a 5, then a 4, and then multiple 3s if you have 3s to go. I think that would definitely be a good change, but at the same time, all the changes here have been positive. There's also been an increase in the tokens acquired, which inevitably leads to faster card acquisition and higher tier card acquisition. This is especially important for those newer or more casual people who haven't finished their Pool 3 collections, and as Pool 3 grows over time, it's going to make coming in as a new player a lot more palatable. And you can, of course, skip and buy a big guy that you're wanting at Series 4 or Series 5. And now to illustrate how big this change actually is, the Pool 3 Uncomplete group now gets about 4 times more tokens than they did initially, and everybody's seen a slight bump. They've also adjusted the location rotation, changes with the hot location or featured locations, and for me, I don't really tend to enjoy the hot or featured locations. I think it's nice for a short while, but after a while, it gets old. And so seeing those things be more consolidated in its amount of days, meaning you're typically just looking at 24 hours instead of multiple days, that's been a good change for me. So I listed a lot of positives, I listed a lot of change here, but I also think we probably want to talk about the recent quote-unquote elephant in the room when it comes to Marvel Snap. And that's been the adjustment to the way's cards that progress through the system. So if you are familiar with the way Marvel Snap rates its cards, we have pool 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pools 1 and 2 are fairly stagnant. You get cards in a certain order. Pool 3 opens up drastically and you get cards in a random order. Then pool 4, then pool 5. Now you get these much slower once you get to those pools, and you can purchase them with tokens. The token purchase is 6,000 for a 5, 3,000 for a 4, and 1,000 for a 3. So if you know when cards are going to downgrade, you wouldn't want to pay 6,000 for a card that's about to be 3,000, or 3,000 for one that's about to be 1,000. And some people want to save their tokens, spend them very efficiently, and so they either want to only buy the cards that are going to stay at a high level for a long time, or they're going to want to save their things and buy the most cards at the lowest level. When the system was initially set, it appeared that cards would adjust downward at a consistent and predictable rate. However, recently this has changed, with a few high-end meta cards being frozen or held at a higher pool or tier. And poor or less used player cards have been accelerated through the process. So basically, we are having less access to very good cards and more access to cards that I would consider bad or unplayable. I'm looking at you, Snowguard. I'm sorry. Cool looking card, doesn't really have any uses. Now, there's not a lot more to say about this other than it's had a negative impact on player trust, and that's something that I completely understand. It means the purchase of any card with tokens is inherently riskier than it was in the previous method, as I might all of a sudden have my card downgraded when I didn't expect to, or I'll be saving my tokens for quite some time only to be unable to purchase the card that I thought I would be able to get. Now, the very last thing that we're going to say here is just kind of a final score, right? Do I recommend the game? I do still strongly recommend the game, even though there are those other issues. It's a free game. It's still very free-to-play friendly, and it has a lot of content, a lot of art, a lot of style to it, and a lot of fun to be had for a minimal time and money investment. So I think everybody should still give it a chance, play a few matches, entertain yourself for part of a season, and move on. Try not to get too sucked into this, especially if you're going to be disappointed with some of the way that those things are moving through the pools, but other than that, I think this is still an excellent game that I intend to continue to play for quite some time. I hope you've enjoyed this video. These are my additional thoughts on Marvel Snap. If you have any questions, any feedback for me, please leave those in the comments below, and have a great time gaming.